Thank you, Madam President. I would like to first congratulate you for your competent leadership for the month of December during the presidency of the Security Council, and thank you for organizing today's briefing. The United States has been a strategic partner of the Afghan people in our quest to prosperity and stability. I also want to thank the Secretary General for his recent report on the situation in Afghanistan and would like to welcome the presence of his Special Representative, Mr. Tadamichi Yamamoto, who I thank for his comprehensive briefing and more broadly for his effective leadership of UNAMA in Afghanistan. Mr. Yamamoto's experience and able guidance of the work of UNAMA at an important crossroad in the history of Afghanistan is commendable, and it exemplifies the long-standing commitment and cooperation between the government and the people of Japan and Afghanistan. Madam President, when talking about the situation in Afghanistan, it is important to show a full picture, one that goes beyond underlining the threats affecting our country, but also the achievements that have been accomplished over years of hard work and sacrifices. Today's briefer, Ms. Aisha Khurram, represents that picture, the new generation of educated Afghan women playing an active and influential role not only in our local society, but at the international level as well. As our first female youth representative to the United Nations, she is the voice of the post-2001 generation, a generation that's committed to the values of democracy, multilateralism, and peace. She represents the new Afghanistan that's calling to not only protect the gains of the past 18 years, but to expand them. It's truly a testament of the evolution of a new country. Reflecting on this evolution, it requires us to remember the difficult journey we have gone through to make it where we are today. In 2002, with the support and assistance of the international community, a new era of state building and reconstruction, establishing the foundations for democracy, rule of law, and our modern institutions began. The adoption of a comprehensive constitution opened the doors to the establishment of a republic that defends the equality of all its citizens. This new republic called for equal provision of health services, education, and security, while instituting a democratic system of government, giving our people the opportunity to elect their leaders for the very first time in decades, with presidential and National Assembly elections in 2004 and 2005, respectively. The pursuit of democracy and strengthening of our national institutions continued with the first peaceful transfer of power following the presidential election of 2014 and through the consolidation of our security forces in 2015, after resuming responsibility for full security from NATO. We then decided to embark on a bold journey towards economic growth and self-reliance through the start of our transformation decade for 2015 and 2024, an important goal where we envisioned an Afghanistan as a country no longer reliant on aid and insisted on a country capable of leading itself into an era of stability and prosperity. This has required us to take steps in developing the legal and governance foundation for the benefit of the well-being of our people and strengthening our state. As part of these efforts, over 400 pieces of legislation were passed to modernize and expedite the effectiveness of our institutions. The success of these reforms is evident, and we can highlight as an indicator the important growth of our internal revenue to over 90% since 2015. Efforts were also redoubled towards the strengthening of the independence of the judiciary, and key legislations were implemented to better tackle corruption as a cornerstone for enhancing the rule of law in Afghanistan. Madam President, last September, another decisive step was taken towards the building of a stronger, self-reliant Afghanistan. The holding of the presidential elections represented a rejection of the people, both by the elders and the youth, to the ideology of extremism as they withstood the threats of the Taliban to empower the Republic and the strong values of democracy. This election was safeguarded by the heroism of our Afghan defense and security forces, and I want to take this opportunity to once again reiterate their bravery and effective work in allowing our people to cast the vote for the future of our country. As we wait for the results, it's now the critical responsibility of the election commissions to deliver the results of each vote casted by the people of Afghanistan. We are a committed and patient partner in this demanding task, and we hope that they are able to announce the results as soon as possible. In the meantime, we continue to call on all candidates to allow the IEC and the Independent Electoral Complaint Commission to carry out their obligations according to the existing mechanism in election law. Madam President, since his first day in office, President Ghani has placed peace at the top of the national agenda. He shared his peace plan in the Kabul process and the Geneva conference and announced unconditional peace talks with the Taliban. As part of this, we thank our international and regional partners who have responded to our call for peace and have provided assistance to building a conducive environment for Afghan-led and Afghan-owned direct talks between the Taliban and the government. Particularly, allow me to highlight the role of the US in these important efforts. As a next step on the process, this last October, President Ghani announced a 7-point peace and stability plan to move the process forward. The elements of this plan focus on building consensus on drivers of conflict at the national and transnational level, and emphasizing on mechanism to support an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned peace process. The plan emphasizes for guaranteeing non-repetition of conflict in a credible system of verification and dealing with threats by transnational terrorist networks, transnational criminal organizations, and non-state actors. Finally, on a post-peace future, it addresses the need for a development plan while also stressing the need for institutional reforms to strengthen governance, fight corruption, and address the post-conflict grievances. As part of the critical work to implement this new peace roadmap, the government has identified 3 immediate concrete steps to better coordinate efforts and define priorities for the achievement of peace. This includes the hosting of mini jirgas to determine priorities on the mechanism to end the conflict, the formation of an alliance consultation group, engaging the special representatives of our 12 to 15 countries in consultation on the way forward for peace, and the holding of additional intra-Afghan dialogues. We look forward to the cooperation and inputs of our international friends and partners as part of this framework, and we hope that these efforts will further serve to successfully move the peace process. As we move on this new direction, it must be highlighted that we are committed to achieving an enduring peace and stability in the country as a common goal and a shared aspiration of the people and government of Afghanistan. We welcome the efforts of our regional and international partners in seeking to facilitate an environment for direct talks between the government and the Taliban, but we also remain firm that the willingness to move this process can only come in the form of an immediate ceasefire by the Taliban. The gains of the past 18 years, particularly those of women, must also be protected and expanded further. This is the shared view of the Afghan society in the international community as well. Just last month, we launched the Group of Friends of Women in Afghanistan, along with Ambassador Pierce, who I thank once again for her dedication in support to women in Afghanistan. The message of support and solidarity by respective ambassadors coming from different countries and cultures, and the leaders of NGOs and other organizations was loud and clear, and that we cannot have a long-lasting and consequential peace without the participation of women and the maintenance of their rights. Madam President, while peace remains our main objective, the government is also focused in protecting our territory against all terrorist threats, including those created by Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and Daesh. Currently, the Taliban remain the main umbrella organization that provides an enabling ecosystem for Daesh, Al-Qaeda, and others to launch their attacks against the security of all of us. As such, we continue to engage them in the battlefield, preventing them from gaining any ground while diminishing their control in various areas. In a recent operation in northeastern Afghanistan, our security forces effectively eliminated Daesh presence. Over 243 Daesh fighters and their families surrender in the Nangarhar province. Afghanistan appreciates the support of NATO forces under the Resolute Support Mission that continue to train our security forces while also providing advice and assistance in the fight against this terrible threat. Looking forward, our focus should not only be on defeating terrorists on the ground, but it also should look on countering their extremist ideologies and the sources of financing from their nexus with organized crime and the illegal narcotic trade. Particularly on the latter, a comprehensive regional approach that truly addresses the issue in all its stages, from production to consumption, is urgently needed. In our response to this problem, we have made strides, conducting close to 3,000 operations this year, seizing and destroying thousands of drugs and their precursors in the process, and arresting almost 800 individuals involved in this crime. Nevertheless, efforts of one country alone are futile in the eyes of a multinational threat that connects criminal networks around the region if the larger root causes are not appropriately addressed. Regional platforms such as the Heart of Asia Istanbul process, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization are good examples that could be an effective mechanism helping us to strengthen our cooperation and better countering these threats. Madam President, the selfless commitment of international workers in our country is a real aspiration to all Afghans to continue our efforts to build a self-reliant and a prosperous Afghanistan. We are forever indebted to these brave individuals, and we are devoted to building on their work to achieve the goal of a prosperous Afghanistan. Here, I would like to pay tribute to the work of Dr. Tetsu Nakamura and Mr. Anil Raj. Over the past weeks, enemies of Afghanistan targeted and killed these two people who had focused their career to the betterment of lives of Afghans. Mr. Raj, an American citizen and a UNDP worker, was attacked with two of his local colleagues. Dr. Nakamura, a Japanese citizen, while also holding an honorary citizenship of Afghanistan, was known as an Uncle Murat to those he worked with, dedicated decades of his life to helping Afghan people and the construction of water canals for irrigation. Afghan people are still mourning his loss, and he will be remembered as a symbol of love and friendship between the people of Japan and Afghanistan. Madam President, I will conclude by saying that we have come so far through the steadfast commitment and goals set since 2002 to achieve a secure and prosperous Afghanistan. It's a genuine question by many of you. If you have done the right thing and you have made the right investment, my answer is yes. You have made the right investment by making the impossible possible. The presence of two women today from Afghanistan to proudly present the new nation and the new Afghanistan is that impossible that we together made it possible. I'm emotional. Now it is the time to redouble on these efforts and look to the next step as an opportunity to strengthen and preserve the democratic values and the gains that we have earned through the sacrifices of the Afghan people and our international partners. We are determined to move this unfinished mission forward and to continue working to make Afghanistan a self-reliant, prosperous, and peaceful country. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Afghanistan.